Hello and welcome. I'm so excited to be here with you today to talk to you about this topic of mourning to meaning, creating a purposeful life after loss. I have to be very honest with you that this December will mark 6 years since I lost my husband suddenly and unexpectedly. And the last thing I personally was thinking about when my husband died in 2018 was about purpose or meaning for my life. I can honestly say to you that where I was at that first year was survival. I was trying to make it through the funeral, trying to make it through the sale of our house, trying to make it through probate court because my husband died without a will. So I wasn't thinking about purpose, I wasn't thinking about meaning. I was just thinking about how can I make it through this year? And maybe you can relate to that when you are starting on this journey, and even as you continue on this journey, you might not necessarily be ready for a conversation around taking steps towards meaning and purpose. And maybe you're questioning, wondering, is this for you because of where you're feeling you're at on this journey? I want to share with you that even if you're feeling I'm not ready to step into purpose and finding meaning for my life after a loss, I want you to know that it's okay. And you may listen to a number of different amazing speakers during this summit and feel like maybe you're in the wrong room or maybe this is not for you. I want you to know that it is for you. Because wherever you are on this journey, I want you to know that you're not always going to be at this place in this journey. Because as we know with grief, it comes in waves, it's not linear. We have our highs, we have our lows, we have our good days, we have our bad days. And so, what I encourage you to do is take some of the things that I'll be sharing with you today and the things that you'll be gathering in this summit. And if you're not quite yet ready to step into these things and start to put them into practical use, then I want to encourage you just put it on the shelf. Put it on the shelf for a little bit until you are ready for it, and then you can revisit it at another time. But the most important thing I want you to be able to get from this conversation is to extend grace towards yourself and patience. We all navigate this journey of grief and loss and widowhood uniquely and differently. Our pace will look different. There's no right or wrong. There's no time frame that makes you feel like you're behind. Because I hear that often in the client work that I do with my therapy practice clients. And there's been a year that's gone by and they're wondering, well, why do I still feel this way? Well, I want to encourage you to extend your grace to yourself because grief is not a sprint, it is a marathon, it is a journey. And it's my belief that grief is not something that ends. Grief continues to exist as long as love continues to exist for the ones that we've lost. And in this case, it would be our spouses. So I want to have this conversation with you today of things that you can consider as you are going on this journey of creating a purposeful life after loss. The first thing I want you to think about is mastering you. Master you. In life, we are consumed with so many different things, titles, roles. We had the role of being someone's spouse. Maybe you're a parent watching this, you have children. Maybe you're a grandparent. Maybe you are an aunt, an uncle. And so we find our identity a lot of times in what we do and in the things that we have as a role. And so when we think about our roles and we think about our titles, our identity is often locked into that. And so when you strip away the roles and you strip away the titles, it often makes people feel lost on this journey? Who am I outside of being someone's spouse? Who am I outside of being someone's parent? Who am I outside of my job, outside of my degree, outside of the things that I do, outside of my skills and my talents? And it's really about getting curious about who you are, leaning more towards being versus doing, understanding what is the essence of who you truly are. And if it's not clear to you, I want you to know that you're not alone in that, because for many, this is a challenge to really pull back the layers and really discover who you are, what makes you tick, what are the things that you care most about now in this season of your life. It looks different. You're different after this loss. And so it's important to take the time to master you, to explore and get curious about who you are now since this loss. The second thing I want you to be able to consider is, what's your motivation? What's your motivation for taking on a new task, deciding that you want to move into a certain direction? Anytime you embark on something new, the question is, why am I doing it? Why is this important? Why does this matter? If you're embarking in a journey of how you could become a better version of yourself, the question then becomes, why? Why do you want to become that better version? What would it mean to you? Why does it matter? What difference will it make? That why question is so essential, because in the days where you feel like you don't want to get out the bed, on the days where you don't feel like doing anything, what draws you back, what sets you back on the course and in alignment with your intention is your why. So that motivation, that understanding about why you're doing something, why you're embarking in a project, why are you moving in a certain direction for your life, understanding the why is essential. The other thing I want you to consider is that your emotional health is a priority. I'm going to say that again. Your emotional health is a priority. Oftentimes, we are so used to giving of ourselves and putting others before us, particularly if you're a woman. Everyone gets taken care of, everyone's needs come first. And oftentimes, you may not even be on that list. And what I have found doing this work is that, and even within my own lived experience and on my own journey, is that there could be unaddressed emotional wounds that are existing in your life that have not been addressed. Old emotional wounds that have been just there, left, not tended to. And what can happen when you're experiencing grief and loss is that grief can sometimes trigger unaddressed emotional wounds. And those unaddressed emotional wounds can have an impact on your grieving processing and journey, and they can impact on your current relationships and on your overall life. And so it's important for you to take that responsibility to be an active participant in your own healing, in your own emotional health and well-being. How you are emotionally impacts every area of your life. And so really being able to get more aware of your thoughts, your feelings, to notice what's happening that causes or creates certain thoughts and feelings, to notice your behaviors. And is it leading you closer to who you desire to be? Or is it taking you farther from the person that you desire to be? And so your emotional well being is your responsibility. You may have amazing family and friends, but they can't do this for you. You may have an amazing grief counselor or therapist, but they can't do this for you. You may have an incredible coach and support group, but they can't do this for you. That healing, that work, it's personal and it requires your active participation on this journey. And so, as you're contemplating creating purposeful life, working on your personal emotional health is essential. And the other thing I want you to think about is healing and growth does not automatically happen. Can I say that again? Healing and growth does not automatically happen. And that sometimes people have this notion, which is a misconception or a myth, I would say, that time heals all wounds and that just give it some time and then, you will feel better. But I could tell you in my own lived experience and for many that I've spoken to on this journey, time does not heal all wounds. When we don't address our hurts, when we don't address our wounds, when we don't deal with some of our stuff that are difficult and painful, they don't just automatically leave or disappear. They remain present. And they may, for a season, lay dormant, but then there will be something that will happen or occur in your life that will reignite it and trigger it, and then trigger that agitation as a reminder that it's something that needs to be dealt with. It's something that needs to be tended to with care, with compassion, and with intentionality. It requires effort and it requires work, and there are various ways in which you can go about on this journey to healing and growing. And being a part of this summit and being a part of this community is one of those ways. But recognizing it's not just about consuming information, it's about looking at the information and seeing how it can be applied to your life, to your growth, and to your healing. So I want to talk to you now about what are some ways in which you can start to create a purposeful life and what that can look like for you. Number one, get clear about what your values are. What are your values? Because I can tell you this in my own lived experience and speaking to others on this journey, when your values are aligned and they are meaningful to you and impactful, it's because they are aligned with what your personal values are on this journey. And your personal values could be things like your spirituality, health and wellness, friendships, family, your career, your business. Whatever those values are, just to name a few, really start to get clear on what are those values for you now since the loss of your spouse. And then what I want you to do is make a list. Make a list. If it feels a little bit of a heavy task, start with maybe 3 to 5 values that resonate with you, that are meaningful to you, and then list them in the order of priority. And then what I want you to do when you have listed out those values according to priority, I want you to really check in with yourself each week. And if you miss a week, it's okay. Check in with yourself and ask yourself the question, how did we do this week? Did we live in alignment with our values? And this is not so that there's shame and condemnation when you're going through a week and it's not aligning with your values. It's the opposite. What it does is it raises awareness for you to become more aware of where are the areas I need to continue to work on. What are the areas that I continue to need healing and growth in? And allowing yourself that grace that you will make mistakes and it will not be perfect. In some weeks and some days, you'll miss the mark on the journey, but it gives you a starting point of how to really get aligned with things that you value. The second thing I want you to consider is understanding what matters most to you. And you got to love family, good intention family and friends. And sometimes what they will tend to do is try to tell you how you should do something, what they feel you should be doing or not doing. And if you have been a people pleaser, like how I used to be, you may have the tendency to want to do things for friends and family to make them feel comfortable, to not hurt their feelings, to make them feel good. But when we do that, what ends up happening is the opposite for you. You end up walking away not feeling good and not feeling comfortable. And I want to encourage you as you are navigating this journey of creating a purposeful life after loss to start to really work that muscle of creating boundaries for yourself, to be able to establish clear boundaries that allows you to say no as a complete sentence. And I know it's not comfortable. I know it's going to stretch you out of your comfort zone. And to be honest, it still stretches me out of my comfort zone when I have to say no and someone's disappointed and someone's not getting their way. But I can tell you with confidence and assurance that when you say no and you set boundaries and you hold those boundaries, it is the most empowering thing that helps you in your journey. It has been incredible for me and so empowering for me to set those boundaries, to hold those boundaries and say no, to do the things that fill your cup, to do the things that are most meaningful, important to you, to be in spaces and to be with people around you that you care most about and that you most enjoy in this season of your journey. It takes courage, but I believe that you have the capacity to be able to do it. The other thing I want you to consider is discovering a purpose that goes beyond yourself. This is about cultivating a heart and a posture of servitude, being able to serve others. When you think about your gifts, when you think about your skills, your talents, your abilities, how can you add value to others that can use some of the giftings and skills and abilities that you have where you can be a blessing and a help to others? That has been the most tremendous blessing to my life and to my healing journey, being able to serve others. One of the ways that I have, if I were to give you an example, using my skill, I have always been a writer. And I use that skill to write a book about my journey to share with others. And I continue to write many blogs on social media to educate the community about grief. And so, what I want you to do as an exercise is to just do a brain dump. And a brain dump is basically dumping all the ideas that come to your mind without any judgment, without any filter, of all the skills, the gifts, the abilities, the things that you do well, that you can use to be able to add value to someone. And then I want you to narrow it down to your top three. And then from that list, that short list of three, I want you to lean into the top one that resonates the most with you, that's most meaningful, that you feel can actually give the most impact to those that you desire to add value to. Start there. And lastly, this one is around integrating the memory of your deceased spouse. And there are many different ways in which you can do this. And this is really contingent upon whether you had a loving relationship with your spouse. I've seen some widows who have created a scholarship in the name of their spouse in honor of them. I've seen others plant a memorial tree, planting a seed and seeing it grow and having a memorial in honor of the spouse. You get to decide how you want to carry on that legacy and honor your deceased spouse. And if you find that your relationship was not a healthy, loving relationship with your spouse, then you can still use this activity for someone else in your life that you have loved, that you were close to, that passed away, that died. Maybe it was a pet, maybe it was another relative, and create ways in which you can honor them and continue that legacy. Because then it not only becomes something that you can enjoy, but it's something that you can invite others into so that they can bear witness and be a part of that legacy and honoring your deceased loved one. Here's what I want you to get from this conversation. There is no sprint to who can create the most meaningful, purposeful life after loss the quickest. Our journeys will look different because we're all unique and we all have different values and different things that matter to us. My hope from this conversation is that you walk away being curious about you, being curious about your values, being curious about the things that matter to you now since the loss of your spouse. The truth is, there's things that maybe you valued before your spouse died more than what you value now. It changes. It's not the same. And can I also share with you that as you continue on this journey, it will continue to evolve. It will continue to grow. It will not remain the same as you learn, as you develop new relationships, get into different spaces. The things that you value may change in priority. The things that matter to you may change as well over time. So, giving room for flexibility to be able to evolve and to adjust and to grow in this. Remembering that creating a purposeful life is most meaningful and impactful when it's aligned with things that you value and that are most important to you. I hope you received some value from this conversation. And if after this presentation that you would like to stay in contact with me, I can be found on social media. You can find me on Instagram at Petra Ignites. And within that page, you can go to my bio, and there's a link tree that gives all the links for the different services and ways to connect with me and work with me. And I have a complimentary email community for widows specifically, where I provide a free resource to every new subscriber that's a widow, where you have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about grief and guilt. And I talk about some areas of guilt and grief and how are different ways in which you can respond to it. And when you subscribe to this newsletter, I email this newsletter every single Thursday with relevant content, providing compassionate support, responding to emails when widows reach out to me, ask questions, or just want to share. And I have some exciting things that I look forward to sharing with those in the email community that's coming up very soon for this quarter and the remaining of the year. I also have a page on Facebook, Beauty from Ashes Academy with Petra Gordon. So any way that you want to connect with me, whether in Facebook, Instagram, I invite you to reach out to connect, and I hope to see you in our email community. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to connecting with you again real soon.